Welcome to Concept. I'm Dr. Bill Loveless. Thank you for listening. Today we're going to look at divorce under the title of the program, Should I Leave This Marriage? There are literally thousands of Americans and some of you, as we sit here today and as you listen, are wondering, should I leave this marriage? So we're going to deal with divorce, its complications and implications for the family, and particularly for you. At the end of the program, I'm going to offer you my 30 questions to ask yourself before you file for divorce. These are absolutely free. And at the end of the program, get your pencil ready, because we're going to give you a website you can go to, and these are free. And there are 30 questions that I have designed with the help of some friends. And I think they go pretty well with what you may be planning to do if you're looking seriously at divorce. Let's look at some of the scenarios today that happen in our country with regard to divorce. 68% of children of divorce live with their mothers. That's 2/3. That's a very high percentage of children of divorce live with their mothers. Almost 1 million women will become second wives this year. That's a high number. It fluctuates back and forth year to year, as does the divorce rate, but pretty much that's about where we are. 33% of the nation's children live in homes where at least one biological parent is absent. That's 33%. In other words, a third of the children in the United States live in a home where there's only one biological parent. We're going to talk about the effect of divorce on children later on in the program, so stay by. That's certainly a major consideration. 50% of children of divorce have not seen their father in at least a year. The absence of father in divorces is a major problem in America. And I'm not blaming fathers, I'm not blaming mothers, I'm not blaming anyone, but children need fathers and need mothers. They need both. And when fathers are absent, which is often what happens because 2/3 of the children live with their mother, the father kind of tends to disappear in time, and that's a real loss for children in divorce. The divorce rate hovers at about 50% in this country. In other words, half of the people that get married are going to get divorced, and most of them are going to get remarried. And second marriage divorce rate is between 60 and 62%. So when I talk to people in my work about divorce and they say, this is the solution to the problem, well, I say, 12%, roughly 12%, over half of the people that got divorced and got married the second time got divorced the second time. So the percentage goes up when we talk about that very, very high. This is a real problem for us because divorced women with children in the United States are the new poor. This is a real issue and a real problem because we really don't know where they are unless we can put our finger on them locally and discover where these new families, these new poor families really are. This is a real problem. So let's look at divorce again kind of in detail. My particular commitment is that most couples can make marriage work if they are willing to. If they are willing to, they can make marriage work. Now, I'm a pro-marriage guy. I'm not anti-divorce because there are circumstances when divorce is perfectly appropriate. But I'm a pro-marriage guy, and I go along with a lot of my friends who are pro-marriage. We try to help people make a marriage work first, and we try hard. I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that we do here, because most couples, I believe, can make a marriage work if they want to, if they're willing to try. And here's what some of the things they need to try before we get too far down the line. It's critical and crucial that a family look fairly at preventing divorce. It is possible to prevent divorce. Divorce brings pain and upheaval to everybody in the family, on both sides, extended families, in-laws. All of that leads to pain and upheaval. And that's something which is very, very important to consider. Second marriage complications involve turmoil of the children. Basically, 2 years after divorce, children are in real turmoil. But that turmoil can continue for years, on into adulthood. So children basically have a problem, even little ones, dealing with divorce. Long-term effects on the family, people don't speak to each other, people don't see each other. For children, there is no divorce. And adults might get a divorce and separate. The children's father goes one way and mother goes another way, and for them, there really isn't any divorce. So we need to keep that in mind. So what is the strategy for a divorce? And I say, divorce the old marriage. Go ahead and get divorced. But don't do it against each other, do it together. And say, our marriage isn't working, we're going to divorce the old marriage and start a new one on a new basis. Now this may sound crazy, but it isn't. It works. Trust me, it works. Believe me, it works. It can work for you. Away with negative talk and negative thinking. First thing we need to do when we start a new marriage, divorcing our old marriage and staying together, is to do away with negative talk and negative thinking. Up with appreciation. I appreciate in you. John Gottman, University of Washington researcher, says, when there's a 5-to-1 ratio, 5 positive affirmations to 1 negative in a marriage, we have a very healthy marriage. Now, these positive can be a hug, a 6-second hug once a day, can be a touch, can be a look, can be a word. 5-to-1, we have a healthy marriage. If it goes down to 1-to-5, we have an unhealthy marriage, and we have a divorce in 2 years, Dr. Gottman says. So these positive words of appreciation are crucial for a marriage to survive. Start a new marriage with the same mate. That's what we're talking about. How do you do that? Start with what works in the relationship. Every relationship has in it something that works. Start with that. Find out what works and do more of that. John Gottman has written a book, several books on what makes marriage work, what makes marriage work and fail. Get one of John Gottman's books and start there. Michelle Weiner Davis, Divorce Busters is the name of her book. I love her book. I use it all the time and recommend it to my clients. It's a wonderful way to take a look at not getting a divorce, but divorcing the old ideas and start with a new marriage. Same couple, a new marriage built around a whole different way of looking at marriage. Look at the options. When you really seriously look at the options and you look with what you've got going for you, I think you'll be very surprised, happily surprised at what is happening. See a pro-marriage therapist. See a pro-marriage therapist. See a therapist who is in favor of marriage and who is committed to help couples make marriages work. There are a lot of therapists around town that simply say, you know, this is an awful situation, I think you ought to leave. Well, there are circumstances when you ought to leave. Primarily, those circumstances have to do with safety. If you're not safe, if there's danger, physical danger or emotional danger, and it's a serious threat, then you should leave. No question about that. But you need therapeutic help to find out if that's where you are. And that's my point. A pro-marriage therapist will take time to explore where you are as a couple and help you get back on track, rejecting the old relationship and saying, let's have a new marriage, same couple, new relationship. That's a possibility. Affairs usually are around when there's a divorce. And affairs are never efforts to solve marital problems. You don't solve marital problems by having an affair. Affairs can be remediated. They can be solved. Confess it, renounce it, and rebuild a relationship. It's very simple, not easy, but renounce it, confess it, and rebuild the relationship with the help of a pro-marriage counselor. That's where to go. You know, there are a lot of excuses for divorce. I hear them all the time. Let's look at some of them, see if any of them fit you. I'm disappointed about what I've been getting. Just really disappointed about what I've been getting. Well, turn on the other shoe, and instead of, I recognize my marital responsibility. What's my responsibility to this relationship? The relationship wasn't working anymore. Dr. Loveless, this relationship just wasn't working anymore. Oh, really? Our needs were just too different. We grew apart. Our needs were just too different. I just wasn't happy. These were all excuses for divorce. I grew and he or she didn't. We just went to two different places. We aren't the same people we were. Well, I hope not. Nobody is. Every day that comes brings new experience and a new way of coping with that experience. Here's a good one. After the children left, there was nothing left between us. Zero, there was nothing there when the children left home. My spouse was nice. Oh, my spouse was nice, but oh, so boring. Well, you know, these all might sound like you, or one of them might sound like you. Be careful. Be careful. These are simply the current excuses for divorce. We move from excuses to intentional marriage. We can have the relationship we intend to have. We can sit down together and intend to have a relationship that's different. That's why I'm saying, go ahead and divorce that old marriage. And the same couple start a new marriage with an intentional relationship. This is the model that I'm recommending. Number one, you can have the relationship you would intend to. It's up to you. Sit down with a good therapist and say, we want to get a new marriage. We're divorcing the old marriage. We want to start a new marriage. It's our intention to build an intentional relationship. In an intentional marriage, the partners are conscious, deliberate, and I like this word, planful in building the commitment and the connections over the years. In other words, we think about it consciously. We intend to have this relationship. It is a conscious thing. It is deliberate, and it is planned. We start off not just getting married and hoping nature will take its course and woo, I hope this will work. We actually come up with an intentive plan to make this work. Intentional marriage, they are active citizens of the marriage rather than passive customers. This is basically what we mean when we talk about intentional marriage. What are the components of an intentional marriage? Take a look. Number one, Intentional partners have a rock-solid commitment to the marriage. We are married to each other until death do us part, and both of us are committed to do everything we possibly can to make it work till death does us part. This is a rock-solid commitment to the marriage. Number two, they create a reservoir, a pool, if you please, a reservoir of marital rituals, of connection and intimacy. What do we do together? What do we like to do separately? We talk about that. Do we want concert tickets to the symphony? Do we want concert tickets to a local playhouse? Do we go out to eat? Where do we go? What kind of food do we like? I like to tell couples, pretend like this wall in front of us, this wall is a white wall or off-white wall, and there's nothing on it, and we divide the wall into 7 parts, which is 7 days. And if I walk up to the wall and I take my pen out, just a little pen like this with a very small, and I put a very small dot on that big wall, one whole wall, just a small dot. And you sit there and say, now look at the wall, tell me, do you see anything? Your eyes go immediately, zing, right to that small dot, the size of the end of my pencil. Yeah, you see something in it. There's a spot on that wall, a very small spot. It can be a large wall. And your eyes go right to that spot. That's a ritual. Every couple needs spots on the wall to look forward to. Larger spots, vacations and trips. Small spots, intimate time rituals, sexual rituals, food rituals, travel rituals, family rituals, all that are self-consciously planned, talked about, and entered into, so that there is a reservoir of intimacy and connection. And last, and very important, is the committed, intentional couples participate in a supportive community. That means they might be a member of clubs in the area that they both go to. They might be a member of a church. They might have a number of friends that they invite in and they go visit. There is a camaraderie. There is a supportive community. So intentional partners have a rock-solid commitment, and we can build a new marriage around a rock-solid commitment. All the stuff in the past is forgiven, forgotten, and processed, and then we start with a new relationship. Intentional partners are committed to each other. Intentional partners have rituals that keep them coming together, and intentional partners have supportive communities. 3 simple but very profound ideas that help make marriages work. Now the question is raised, what about the children? That's a crucial question for all of us. Clearly, a child's best environment is an intact 2-parent family. No question about that. Oftentimes that's not the case though, and yet high levels of conflict are damaging, and the amount of damage incurred is in focusing on parents or enduring conflict or divorce is a kind of a toss-up. Which is going to be most conflictual, divorce or ongoing conflict? Which is going to be most damaging to the child? We're not quite sure. The research is out on that one yet. Actually, for 2 or more years after divorce, children remain in crisis regardless of their age. The less conflict, the better. Please, Dad, please, Mom, if you're in a divorce, don't talk about your other partner in denigrating terms to your children. Don't go there. That's still their mother. That's still their father. They love them. They depend on them. And they don't know what to do when you start that kind of talk, denigrating the wife or the husband when there's a divorce present. That's a damaging thing to children, probably more than just about anything else that can happen. Before going the divorce route, ask yourself some questions. Don't forget to ask yourself the question. I'm going to, at the end of the program, get your pen ready, because I'm going to offer you these 30 questions to ask yourself before you get a divorce. What are some of the things that we need to talk about before we get a divorce? Some of the things we need to think about. This is what I do in my work, helping people think about these. All of us need a coherent explanation of what went wrong. A coherent explanation of what went wrong means I am clearly aware of what I did to make this marriage work, and I am clearly aware of what I did to make this marriage not work. I am clear about that, it's coherent, and I am committed not to make that mistake again, because I know where I made the mistake the first time, and I will wait a couple of years before I get married after I get divorced. Okay, number one question. What effect will this action have on my children? That's a crucial question. Am I willing to be responsible for destabilizing them? Am I willing to be responsible for destabilizing my children? No matter how friendly the divorce is a pain that never goes away. It's a pain that never goes away. Dr. Pittman in Atlanta, Georgia says, a divorce is like having a triple bypass. It's something you live with the rest of your life. If you must, define the problems that make your marriage unsatisfactory and consider how divorce will make it better. Will that make it any better? And that's what my questions are designed to help you do. Second question, hang out with happily married people. Find out how they do it differently. If you know happily married people, spend as much time with and watch how they talk, how positive they are to each other, how affirming they are, how they touch, how they talk. See how they do it differently. Get into therapy with a counselor who believes in marriage. Make it clear that your goal is to save the marriage. Make sure the counselor believes in marriage. There's a lot of counselors around that are ready to say, cut and run anytime you hit a hard spot. That's not the kind of therapist or counselor I'm talking about. If you are in an affair, stop it, reveal it, and apologize. Do you hear that? If you're in an affair, stop it, reveal it, apologize, and move on. Don't stay there. It only makes it worse. Slow down. Resist the temptation to move on. I said something very crucial in this program earlier, just a few moments ago. Take a couple of years after the divorce is final to even seriously consider getting married again. I see so many people who already have a marriage plan before the divorce is final. They don't realize how crucial it is to slow down, resist the temptation to get on with it, and get that coherent explanation to yourself very, very clear, so you know. Don't guess. You know what went wrong and what went right in the previous relationship, and you have time to ponder that and think about it. Slow down, resist the temptation to get on with it. Don't remarry as long as you think you married the wrong person. You need to really understand what you did wrong. If you married the wrong person, it's all their fault. You're not ready to remarry until you understand what your part of that breakdown was. That's all part of what I call a coherent explanation of a divorce. A clear, coherent explanation of what you did well and what you did right, and a clear and coherent explanation of what you did wrong and need to rectify. Now, at the beginning of the program, I told you we were going to talk to you about our 30 questions to ask yourself before you have a divorce. And right there on the screen is our website, www.sls-tv.com. Write that down and go there and print out 30 questions to ask yourself before you get a divorce. Question number 1, in one word, why am I considering a divorce? That sounds like an easy question. Well, I'm mad and I don't want to do this anymore. Well, the question is not an easy answer. Why am I considering divorce? Number 2, if we were able to relive our married life, what would I do differently? Well, Dr. Loveless, I wouldn't marry this clown. I wouldn't marry this guy or this gal. That's what I would do differently. Well, okay. Question number 3, if we were able to live our married life over, what would I want you to do differently? And so on down the line. 30 questions to ask yourself before you get a divorce. Some people need to be divorced. We've mentioned that and we've said why. Most people don't need to get a divorce if they would divorce the old relationship and build a new marriage, same couple, building a new relationship. This is a far better way to go for everybody involved and certainly the children. And this is what I recommend. Divorce the old marriage, but start a new one with the same people. Remember, don't try to be perfect. Nobody's watching me that's perfect or ever can be. But what I am asking you to do today, and have given you some pointers, is do try to do better. That's all I really ask.
All be energy savers. Turn off lights. Use energy-saving light bulbs. And turn off electronics and appliances when not in use. Learn what you can do today at energy.gov/kids.